This is the AARP Smartphone Photo Editing Program, and we're glad to have you here. It's so good to have you here with us again today, and I want to introduce everyone to Anna. Anna Frizzell is a member of the FM Camera Club, and we got to know her last year when we did the other program, and it was just so much fun to work with her. And Anna, it looks great. Your presentation looks perfect, and she's also, on top of all that, the executive director of the Red River Children's Advocacy Center. So welcome, Anna. Please take a little bit to tell us more about yourself and your photography background.
Well, hi, everybody. I am thrilled to be back. I had so much fun last time, and I got great comments from people that gave me some ideas about what might be helpful this time. So that was a lot of fun. I have been shooting photos for a very long time using a first a film camera and then a digital camera. I've used digital for I guess 15 years probably now or more. And I have to admit, I love that. So moving over to a smartphone and the opportunities that a smartphone offers for photography it's an easy move for people that have been in shooting digital for so long now. For all of us, it's natural. We're used to taking a lot of pictures. You know, when we shot with film, you were limited to however many exposures you had on that little canister of film, right? 24, 48, that's it. You took them, and it was a gamble. You were, crossing your fingers that when they got developed, there'd be 4 that you liked or weren't fuzzy or whatever, and all that changed with digital. And now with smartphone, it's added that extra opportunity to have that camera with you all the time. So I'm a member of the FM Camera Club, and that's how I got connected with AARP and the chance to visit with you. So I'm looking forward to it today.
Awesome. Well, we are just thrilled to have you back and talking about photo editing. And I so remember taking film into the drugstore to get developed, and it was expensive, and it was, and I'd have like 12 or 24 of the same photo of my new dog at the time. So it was quite fun.
It was always a gamble, and you never knew what you were going to get. I tell the story when I shot with film years ago on the and you can watch this now, you'll see it happen, but I shoot a lot of sports photography. And I shot film years ago on the sidelines of football games or basketball games. And there'd be all these photographers there, and they'd all be there the whole game, and we'd all visit. And, it wasn't very long into digital where I'd look around in the gymnasium or out in the field, and there was hardly anyone left at the end of the game because they were able to see when they got the photos they needed and they went on to another event, or, it just revolutionized the world of photography. And really, again, smartphones are another big leap. So this is exciting stuff.
Yeah, it really is. Well, hey, let's take a quick look at those results of the poll to see what people were telling us about their editing experience and the features that they use. If we could view that poll here. Okay, well, we got a mix. 14% have never edited a photo, 29% have done some minor cropping. 57% have used 2 or 3 editing features, which is really kind of cool. So that is, and nobody has said they're really comfortable with all types. So that tells us we've got a lot to learn here today. So Anna, I'm going to let you take it away, and I'll be back later at the end. We'll get the questions answered.
Thank you very much. I hope that in 2 weeks, if you took that poll again, we're going to have 100% on every line, because I think that together today, we're going to have an opportunity to see really how easy editing is on the smartphone and what a big difference it can make for your final product. So the first thing here is to get there's always something, isn't it, to get my computer to change slides. I mentioned it earlier, the best camera you have is the one in your pocket. And today, that's the smartphone. It's as I said, it's revolutionized photography. That little picture of a sunset below. You've always got your phone with you. You can shoot that beautiful sunset or that moment with the kids or the dogs or the grandkids. There's just so many opportunities, and it's because the phone is with you. But, before you begin the editing process, you really have to go back to thinking, you've got to start at the beginning, which is taking that photo in the first place. And we talked about that in July. at our using your smartphone to take photos. And there's a webinar that's out on AARP. I think Doreen has posted that site, so you can find that easily. Because taking that initial photo really is the groundwork. I mean, if you take a great photo, you're not going to have to do much editing. So let's talk about that first, or mention that first. But taking a photo today is so much easier with the advanced technologies that are built into your smartphone, the algorithms and the mechanisms to take the technology to take the photo. Really, you just pick up your camera, your smartphone, find your subject, open your camera app, and tap on the shutter to take the photo. It's that simple. And if you need some extra light, you've got an LED flash situated right on your phone, up in the corner, a little flash button, and you can get the flash on. I don't like the flash personally. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. But you know, if you have to, you have that mechanism to add light. You've got unlimited opportunities, like this photo in our boat. Turn the camera around and shoot a selfie, and you've got a great picture of 3 people having a lot of fun. You can do that with your camera phone so easily. So, you know, that's, I guess, a big message of today, is just to try to have fun with that camera phone. So creativity really starts when you take the photo. There's a lot of creativity you can do at the end with editing, but it really starts at the beginning with all the features built into that camera. You can see at the bottom, again, I'm referencing that using your smartphone education webinar. I hope if you get a chance and if you're interested, you'll take a look at that. It was July 23rd. And there's where we really talked about using these features to help you take the photo that you want, to capture the photo you want, using the different modes in the camera and the different opportunities. But, you know, there's some things that you need to remember about taking a photo. Consistent practice is the best way to improve. I guess that goes without saying in just about everything. So if you practice with your camera, you're going to get better at taking the photos. Don't be afraid to use the options in the smartphone camera app. Practice a little bit with them. Monkey with the options that are available, like the portrait mode, where you get a blurred background but a sharp subject. Like the slow-mo, where you slow down, and for video, like the photo mode itself, and how you can get different extensions of the depth of, like wide angle versus narrower up close. There's all those things built into your camera phone, and they're great, and they're really good tools. And if you use them right, you're going to get a good photo. So a couple of steps that are going to help you right from the beginning: observing and capturing the light, practicing your composition, and focusing. And I want to spend a minute on these 3 things, or a few minutes, because again, doing these right means less editing. Photography is about light. The better attention you pay to the light around you, the better your photos are going to be. And the easiest way to do this, and is to make sure to take a moment and think ahead of time. If you really want to capture a certain photo, if you have time to think about it, if you're at an event, shoot the photos when it's still daylight out, and move outside and do it when you have natural light. All your subjects will look much better, and it'll be much easier for you to take that picture. So natural light is the optimum situation. And if you're going to have natural light, of course, you want the light coming at the subject, not coming from behind. You don't want silhouettes. So just think about your light, and that practice, you'll figure this out very quickly, and it becomes sort of second nature to think about that light as you're capturing photos. You know, I mentioned that you have that flash in your camera, and you do, and that's available. So if you can't get the natural light, or if you can't figure out a way to make the most of the light around you, and an example of that is if you're out in the evening, and you're in a restaurant, and there's sort of neon lights or something around the restaurant, get those to flash in the face of your folks that you're trying to take a picture of. So position them so they get the advantage of the light on them. That helps you use the natural light around you, or a street light, get that street light on the front of them. whatever you can do to enhance that natural light is going to give you a better end product. Certainly, there's unequivocally that's the case. You can use your flash. I think flashes are really hard to use well. First of all, the distance that a flash is able to actually illuminate from is built into the flash's capability, that LED light. So it might work 12 feet, it might work 8 feet. It depends. And you want to, you know, you'd have to know that in order to maximize the opportunity to get that flash to work. I also think flashes make for artificial colors sometimes in your photos. So that's hard to work around too. But you always have that backup. You always do have that built-in flash in a camera phone. Not every camera today has a built-in flash, but the smartphones do. Composition. This is really important to think about as well. You need to know what you're shooting in order to get your composition right. You've got to figure out what it is you want. I mean, are you shooting, it seems so elementary, doesn't it, to think, well, if I'm shooting a picture of Anna and there's trees around her, I'm not going to focus on the trees, I'm going to focus on Anna. But everything isn't quite that simple. And so figure out your subject and figure out what think in your mind, and this will become second nature. What do I want my end product to look like? And what are the tools to get me there? I mentioned this little photo I have up in the corner. I was in a car and we were driving through a light show this winter where you went past a lot of different lights that was set up in Fargo. And I snapped this picture. And as you can see, this is the way that picture snapped. And I didn't have enough room on either side of it so that I could crop it. Do you see how it's really shot from one end of that little van to the front of that reindeer? And I didn't get any extra room. My positioning in the car didn't allow me to. Sometimes you can't. If I would add a little more time, I could have pushed a button on my phone that moved my camera back or widened the angle and I would have got more room. But the message here is always step back 5 to 10% more than you think you should. Give yourself that little extra room to crop. And we're going to learn about cropping and you'll see what a difference that makes. So that's something with composition. Know your subject, make sure you put enough room around it so that you can manipulate the photo with cropping and straightening. The placement of the subject makes a big difference. And I want to spend just a moment on the rule of thirds. The rule of thirds is an important photographic rule that has been around for a very long time. And basically what it does is the rule is that you split what you're looking at through your lens finder, you split it into like a tic-tac-toe board. So you have a grid that forms. And the amazing thing in smartphones is that they've built the grid in to really help you with this process. Now, I don't know if you can see the black with the arrow on it, the black iPhone with the arrow, but I've put an arrow where the grid is. It's so light with that black background. I hope it shows up. But you can see a grid built on there, a tic-tac-toe board over the front of it. You know, you can overlay a grid automatically on your camera so that every time your camera opens, the grid opens. And really, you should do this. It is an extraordinarily valuable tool to help you learn to line things up when you're trying to capture a photo. In the iPhone, you go to your settings. Scroll way down in settings until you hit camera. Open the camera settings, and then you'll see, as you can see on the side here in the white iPhone picture, you can see grid under composition. Turn the grid on. In the Android, you open the camera app, find the settings, go to the grid lines option and turn it on. There's a lot of different kinds of phones that use Android, so the options can shift around. Just like I have a newer iPhone, I think it's an iPhone 11, not the newest, but newer. And so mine might be a little different than yours. But this should get you to a grid. Turn that grid button on, and it'll overlay that grid on your photos. And it'll be a really valuable tool for helping you to learn to line things up, get them straight, and Also, there's an important rule about positioning your subject, and that's that in most situations, your photo will be the best if your subject isn't straight in the center. What you try to do is you try to line your subject up with either of, in the areas where the grid intersects, where the horizon or horizontal and vertical lines intersect on the grid. That's where you try to line your subject up, either side, not dead center. Now, there's some subjects that should be dead center, I think. I mean, I shoot pictures of my dog all the time, and well, you'll see some of them where I've got his face just dead center as a portrait. I love that. So it's a matter of personal preference, but it is a general rule that you should not have your subject centered in the photo. So this grid really helps you with that too. It helps you be able to move that subject over. And that's a really good opportunity. Focus. Focus is a big deal. The sign of a sharp, tack sharp photo is a sign of professionalism. It's certainly, it's something I can have trouble with. I admit it, because I tend to have a difficult time sometimes holding things exactly straight if I'm on an unsteady, in an unsteady situation. But if you shoot that photo and get that focus tack sharp, you are going to have a much better photo, and a much better photo that you're going to end up being able to edit and really print. Because in order to have a good print, final print, be able to crop, to have enough resolution going on and enough detail, you really need that focus to begin with. This is a process that a good photo from beginning to the print demands that you have most of these things in place in order for it to work. You can't edit a lot of these things in. Tack sharp focuses. There are ways to get focus in with some outside third-party apps. You can enhance the focus, but you never get it the same as if you took it tack sharp from the beginning. So you gotta, in order to get good focus, you have to minimize the camera shake. And like I mentioned, sometimes I have trouble with this. Some of my equipment's really heavy. It's hard to steady myself. I'll use a monopod, a one-legged stand for my camera, or a tripod to help me with the steadying, especially if I have a really big lens that's heavy. Some of my lenses and camera together are, 12, 13 pounds, and it's difficult to not have shake when you push that button to take that photo. Same as with a smartphone, even though they're obviously very light, you push a button to take the photo, and when you push that button, some shake gets in there. So it's not always about your physical ability to steady yourself. Sometimes it's just punching that button. Maybe you're in a car that's running when you're taking the picture, and the car has a little tiny bit of shake in it. These things all, oddly enough, or surprisingly enough, or maybe you'd expect it, but they all have an impact. So you want to steady yourself. And how do you do that? You lean on something, you lean on your friend to help you, brace your elbows into yourself and shoot. You do whatever you can. Lean on the car is something I do a lot. Get out of the car and lean on the car and use it for again, you should have your car stopped because you don't realize how much shake there is there, I've found. But those things really can help you steady it. And then on this photo on the side of the smartphone, a little trick in these smartphones, when you touch the screen, now you can see this is a really cropped photo. So I took the photo, I had a grid on there, as you can see parts of the grid on here. Then I cropped the photo in close. That's why the grid lines are not a full grid right now. But you see that square over the eye? If you take your smartphone right now, and if you've got if you're going to take a photo, before you push the photo button, you can touch where you want the focus to be, and it'll enhance the focus for you at that point. So that's what that square is. The square is showing me where I touched the camera screen before I pushed and took the photo. So you can enhance your your sharpness over what you might have gotten otherwise by just using that. That's a little trick. So now we're going to move to the editing, because this is what we're here for today. I went pretty quickly over taking your photo, and last time we talked about a lot of things like making sure you wipe your camera lens clean, so that you'd be surprised how dirty those camera lenses on the back of your camera actually get coming in and out of your pocket, to your coat or your pants, or just moisture on them from something. So you should always wipe those. That's a little hint. And there's a lot of hints like that for taking the photo, along with the things we talked about, the observing the light and the focus and the composition. So when you move into editing, hopefully you've taken the best photo that you can. And that's what you're going to work with. So when you edit, there's really two places where you can get help on your phone. The first one is the native apps that are in your phone. And we're going to visit about those. Your phone has a lot of built-in applications to help you edit. And some of you in the poll indicated that you've used a few of those, and I hope you found them helpful. And on the bottom, you see, for instance, exposure. They can fix your color. They help you with balance of the photo, cropping, rotating, all sorts of things that these apps that are built into the phone can help you with. There's really, today when we talk about editing, there's the big three things that we're going to talk about that I rely on, and I bet you 90% of my photos take care of any of the problems that I have, or I shouldn't say that. They maybe don't take care of the problems so much as they help me get the end result I want. So that's the three things we're really going to focus on the most today. The first one is straightening the horizon. The second one is cropping thoughtfully. That's applying that rule of thirds. And the third one is adjusting the exposure if the photo's too dark or too light. You know, with the horizon straightening, I always tell everybody there is nothing that says amateur, amateur, amateur more than a crooked horizon line. You really want to get that horizon line straight. As you can see in these two photos on here, in the first one, I took it and it's a crooked horizon line. It's a notepad and a toy sitting on a notepad, and it's crooked and it's messy. The second one, I have straightened the horizon line, I have cropped it, and I have applied the exposure, and we're gonna learn to do those things. And although this, you may have other things you would have done to the photo. As you can see in this photo, just these three things really change the nature of this photograph. Before we get too far along, I want to mention one sort of side note, and that is you want to shoot the highest quality photo that you possibly can to begin with. If you think that these are photos that you want to keep around, that you want to print maybe, or have on your computer, or it's not so important for the highest quality necessarily if all you're going to do is share them in Instagram or on Facebook. And I mean, those are two important mediums to share things in, certainly. But when you don't do anything but keep them in a digital form, a lot of times you don't really have to have the highest quality. But I think if you're at a family reunion, if you're shooting something that you know you're going to want these photos in the future, for you don't know what reason. I mean, at the time that you're shooting them, you just know you want to preserve these photos with your grandkids, or with, you know, someone that's leaving for the military or graduating from college, whatever the really special event is that won't happen again. Then you want to shoot it in the highest quality you can. And why don't you shoot every photo that way? Because the highest quality takes the most room in the memory on your smartphone. And you can fill up a smartphone very fast with high quality photos if you don't delete them or move them into some kind of storage, like onto a computer or onto an external hard drive, somewhere that you move them off your smartphone. So a lot of people don't want to shoot every photo in the highest quality they can. On the iPhone and on many of the phones, The newer phones, the highest quality is RAW, it's called. That's the acronym for the for the kind of digital data that it's collecting. And you can find those settings in your camera. I can't tell you what every phone's highest quality is, but it's pretty easy for you to explore that if you go on the internet and do a little bit of a search about your phone, your model, your number, and find out what's the highest quality photo that it shoots. Then learn to turn that on and off and use it when you're going to shoot something that's important to you. Use that highest quality. So back to straightening the horizon. Oh, this is a interesting lesson in itself, I think. Just all by itself, it makes such a big difference. If you go over to the white photo, which is on my left, but it is, that is, I have captured the photo and I've opened the photo, and you can see at the bottom, I've got the option of edit. So the number one step here is to get into the editing function of your smartphone. For those of you that haven't done any editing, now there are editing tools available for when you're taking the photo, but in order to learn about those, like I've said a couple of times, go watch the other webinar on taking photos. Right now we're concentrating on editing a finished photo, one you've taken. Can't do anything about it, it's done. I mean, you know, I can't shoot this again and straighten the horizon, it's done. So I need to do something to straighten that horizon. So I open the edit function, I go to photo number 2, and if you look at the arrow, it's pointing at the crop. What is the crop function? And you'll notice the little arrows around the crop function. Those are the arrows that are telling you that it also straightens the photo. Crop and straighten are in this little app. So you touch that app, and in the next photo, you can see just by touching that app, the first thing that opens is straighten. And I go to that little slide bar right under it. And I can't, let's see, the slide bar, there's a grid of lines, like a ruler. It's set in the middle. The largest line is in the middle. That's the bar that you slide. If you move that little middle back and forth, you'll see that the horizon straightens. That's how you straighten your horizon. It is that simple. The crop function, and then just straightening along that little ruler-like line. Now, if you go to the third photo, you'll see that in order to get this photo straight, I had to go -12. So I moved the bar over about 12, something like 12 notches, and that straightened my photo. You can see I have a grid on this photo, and the grid can help you straighten too. Sometimes, or a lot of times, to be honest with you, I'll straighten my photo by lining up the grid line, getting the grid line to line up horizontally as I move. That wouldn't have worked in this one because I shot it so off kilter. But there you've got a straightened horizon. And then the next step, the last photo, is to crop it. You don't have to do anything now to crop it other than go back and touch the crop button. Or excuse me, you don't have to go back to the app button, but you have to go to those, you see how the corners have the little white edges on them around the corner of the photo? In the old days, they look like those little things you put your photo in your photo album, little corner piece holders. You move those in order to crop the photo. That's all you have to do. Just take your finger and move those little lines to get the photo cropped. So do that. If you're following along with us, you should have if you had a photo, you'd maybe tried straightening a little now. Then you move down the line and you're relying again on the crop function, but you're going up to the quarters of the photo and just taking it and cropping it however much you want. Now, something to remember about editing is that any time you crop, you're working with digital signals. It's not signals, but digital data. And so this data, when you crop, you've taken something that's this big and you've blown it up. Now, remember how we said it's a good idea to shoot in the highest quality you can? Well, you can imagine when you blow it up that a lot of times you can end up with sort of pixely photos because you're blowing up that information. You're not creating new information when you crop it. You're just relying on what you have and making it, changing the way it's composed. So, you know, you got to be aware of that. We're going to talk about it in a minute, but that's the straightening the horizon and the crop function. That's the number one thing. I always do the horizon first because it's easier for me to see how I want it cropped then. So I straighten the horizon and then I crop it. So the next thing is adjusting the exposure. We have the little guy on my left, and I am hitting the exposure button now in the next photo. So the app that I want now is the exposure app. Once I'm done cropping, I get an opportunity to look at exposure, and that's that little wand with stars at the end. I don't really know what it is, but what it's a picture of, but that's what it looks like. That's your exposure button. And once you touch that, you can just work with the exposure on that little ruler area again and move the exposure, get it lighter, get it darker, whatever you want. In this case, I wanted it lighter, so I lightened the exposure up a bit, and I pushed done, and my photo's done. Now you can see in this photo that I couldn't get the horizon exactly straight, and you always hope you can, but the cardboard that this little guy's sitting on wouldn't allow that to happen. So it's about as straight as it can get. And the exposure, maybe I would have liked the exposure a little different because there's too much shadow on one side of his body, for instance. Well, we're going to take a look at how we maybe could fix that. There are ways you could work with the floor a little bit or the horizon line a little bit too, but I tried and it really didn't fix very well. So I thought this is an okay finished product for this print or this photo. The next thing I want to talk about, that's the big three. Now we've talked about, we talked about adjusting the exposure, the horizon, and the crop, and the things that we want to do there. Now I want to talk a little bit about some other things that are in your smartphone and available to you. And the next thing is the filters. And the filters really allow you to make a photo your own. I mean, I guess it's your own anyway, but really to be creative with it and give it its own look that you like. And so in order to get into the filters, you go to you're going into your camera and opening your filters at the top. This is this is editing now. After you've shot the photo, you got the photo open, and the filters are these. I'm sorry, but I don't have an arrow on them, and I don't really know where the arrow went. I had one, I thought, but I've got the arrow pointing at original. I want the arrow to be down on those three little circles that look like Olympic circles in that bottom row. I hope you can see them. I'm pointing at them, which doesn't help you a bit. Those three little circles on the bottom row are what you touch. That's the app. It's right next to the crop app. It's the filter app. And you touch that filter app and it opens your filters. And these are really fun because you can just slide through these filters and pick one you like. You can see on my left, the original photo that we brought from the last slide. We've done the exposure, we've fixed the horizon, we cropped. Now we put it in filters, and here the next photo is it with Vivid Warm. That's the filter I chose. And the last photo is Silver Tone. You can turn it into a black and white. You have 4 or 5 black and white options you can choose from. You monkey with these filters, play with them, apply them to your photo, see which one you like. And when you feel like you've accomplished what you want, you push done. One thing to note that's pretty amazing is that multiple times while you're in these editing functions, if you look at this middle photo that says Vivid Warm, down at the bottom it says Revert. If you touch that Revert button, it'll ask you if you want to revert to the original. So you're always able to go back to your original and start over. And you're going to lose everything. You don't get to revert to a certain point in your editing process, but it's not that big a deal because once you play with it, you're easily going to be able to do the horizon. You're easily going to be able to crop. You're not going to have any problem doing exposure, and you'll have fun applying filters. So it's really it's really okay to start over. I mean, so you can always revert back. An editing caveat, I mean, something to remember. This is my dog. Oops. This is my dog, and Roscoe is his name, and you met him in our last webinar too. Anyway, I took the first one on the very left is a shot I took of him. It was a bright sunny day. Roscoe is, his coloring is so dark that it's difficult often to take a good picture of him actually without the editing tools available, unless you can get the light right in his face, and he often won't pose where I want him to. So I just quick shot this picture of him, and sure enough, when I looked at it, it was really dark. The snow was really dark. Ugh. So I moved over and I thought, well, I'm gonna monkey with exposure. I didn't have to worry about my horizon here. I really didn't need to worry about cropping because it's so close up. So, but the exposure I thought was really going to help me. So I messed with my exposure a little. And on this second picture, you can see I applied some exposure to it. You know, I lost the detail of the snow, but I thought, I don't really mind that. And in the next photo, I decided, well, I'm going to monkey with my shadows a little bit. It's another option you're going to see if you play with your phone a little bit. You can not only do exposure, you can monkey with highlights and shadows a little. So I did that just to see what would happen. And I should have quit there, shouldn't I? Because in the next photo, I moved over and I applied highlights, and look what happened. He looks like he's on Mars. His hair, look at how we lost the detail. It pixelated all, see on his ears, how it's kind of pixelated and funny looking. I just edited too much. And that's a caveat, you know, is that you can edit too much. You don't want to do that. You want to, you know, back up. You can always back out. You can revert. You'll get a chance a little later to go back to your original. You can got all sorts of choices, but editing too much can destroy a picture. We've talked, there are options galore, like we've talked about on your telephone itself, but there's also third-party editing apps that you can use, applications that you can use. And you find these in the Google Store or the Apple Store, these applications. And one of them that's really highly regarded is Snapseed. I don't know why it's got that name, but it is free. And it's one of the free options. There's a lot of other ones too, but I wanted to just show you one today. I'm hoping that you're inspired after today to go out and play a little and look at the apps that are available and think about what you can do. You will never need another camera if you use your smartphone right. For most of the applications, I do a lot of nature photography. I'd have a hard time with my smartphone in that, I think, for a lot of the kinds of things I want to capture. But and sports photography, I haven't figured out how to use my smartphone much, except for like after game shots and things like that. But other than that, you know, there's not much you're not going to need another camera for. So Snapseed also offers you monthly subscription options, which enhance the options that you have available. So let's look at that a minute. I just want to show you in the free Snapseed, if you upload the app into your smartphone, you can go into your apps where they are, hit the Snapseed application and open it. And this is the tools that are available that you can use on your photo. And it is very intuitive. You will have no problem figuring out how to use it. And there are just a world of built-in little apps that you can use on your photos to really get more of the, again, that creativity and your opportunity to make the photo really what you wanted it to be in the first place. Let's talk about one of those, for instance, the blur background and vignette function. It is, if you use your native app, you can do this with the portrait mode. I mentioned earlier, very early in our discussion today, that you can use portrait mode to blur the background and enhance the subject. So the depth of field, you blur the background. It's pretty cool if you use portrait mode. But in Snapseed, you can also accomplish this. And here's how you do it. You have that little tools open, and the first thing, here's our little guy again, and he's just come off our editing of the cropping and exposure without the filters, by the way. But You could use him filtered, but I didn't. I used him the way after our first edits. And then in Snapseed, I picked vignette strength, and you can see right around the edges. Then I put a little vignette in, a little darkening of the edges around him. So it makes him pop a little more. And then in the next thing I chose is blur strength. And I blurred parts of the photo. And they put a grid on there, and anywhere where the grid is, the blur happens further and further out. So in the middle, it stays sharp, and then it blurs as it goes. I don't know if you can see, but the foot, what is to me his right foot, is blurry, and that's because it's in that second tier. So they offer you one more option. You can go to transition. It'll tell you to do this basically. Again, it's very intuitive. And you can move those lines so that the transition to blur happens outside where the guy is. So you can see his little foot there is in focus again now. His whole body is in where the sharpness is supposed to be, and outside that is where the blur is supposed to happen. So Snapseed lets you do just a ton of stuff. And nothing scary. I mean, you got a photo, play with a photo that you just want to learn from, and you will be shocked at what you can do with a free app. You'll look like a professional photographer in no time. The one more thing I wanted to mention is, it's not editing, getting your final product can happen a lot of ways. And I went out, if you see this color little collage, I put 5 photos together of my dog and my husband and myself. And you can see in the corner, it says Pick Collage. That's what this app is called. Again, free. Go out and upload this from the App Store. Don't hesitate to upload apps. Try them and delete them if you don't like them. But I uploaded this Pick Collage. I took 5 photos out of my smartphone. You should edit these photos before you put them in here. And one thing you can do is if you edit them with all the same filters and all, you get kind of the same look to them. I did not do that here because I didn't mind the different looks, and I was going to make it black and white anyway. But, I did do a little bit of editing to them. I cropped them the way I wanted them. And then I tried to have photos in my collage where some are close, some are far away, some are a couple of people, my dog in his coat, my dog laying, variety of photos make a great collage. And then in your phone, once you create this collage, you can go back into your phone, save your collage into your photos, open it as a photo, and then you can use your filters like we did on the little guy, the black and white filters, the color filters, the vivid warm filters. You can do all of that, and you can adjust this collage to make it whatever you want it to be. If you want to change it after you've created it. So that's something really fun you can do too. And you can post that on Facebook or get that out on Instagram or wherever you post your photos. Don't forget after you edit that you want to organize your photos into folders probably, or you want to back up your photos on your computer or something. You don't want to take too much room on your smartphone. Maybe you want to get an external hard drive. Maybe you want to have an online backup in the cloud, whatever you want to do. It's just a good idea to do that, especially if this becomes your primary camera. You have a lot of photos that matter to you that you're going to have in this camera. Remember that you want to post your photos, you want to share them, you want to get them out there. This is my Facebook page, and texting photos. You want to text them to people. They're fun to have. You want to print them. You can send them to printing services like Snapfish or Shutterfly or any of those. There's a million printing services. I don't have a preference necessarily, but you can sure print that way. There are a world of things you can do with them. And, all of those things we've talked about, taking that photo, and now we've talked about editing the photo in a simple process that allows you to end up with a product that I think you'll feel really good about, you'll enjoy sending. And you know what else? You're going to get a lot of compliments about your photos because most people just don't do all these things. So you take the time to edit them and people are going to think, I mean, they're going to be amazed. They're probably going to start asking you to shoot everything for them. So watch out. But anyway, thanks a lot for your attention. And I've really enjoyed getting a chance to visit with you about photography.
Oh, Anna, this was really, really good. Again, great presentation. And yeah, I'm just sitting here playing with my phone as we're going through this and learning and hopefully picking up a few tips. But hey, I wanted to just clarify now, Snapseed, as I understand it, that is an editing program that you use after you've taken the photos and you use to use on photos you've already got in your camera.
All of the editing tips that we talked about today are post taking the picture. You have to have the photo in your phone to apply the editing. But that's a good point, because last time when we talked, we did apply some features to the photo, a little bit of pre-editing too. So, you know, a little bit of before you took the photo. Snapseed is, I don't think you can apply anything in Snapseed before, or if you can, I don't know that. The parts that I was showing you, the tools were for the post editing.
Right. But now there are some things that you can do and should do maybe as you're taking the photo, you know, like you said, touching it like where you want it to focus more and that kind of thing, right? I mean, what would you say?
I did. Well, I gave you, I spent a little time today talking about taking the photo, and the focus part was in that taking the photo.
Yeah. What would you say would be the most important thing to do when you're getting ready to take a photo? If you're going to do any of those editing steps or anything like that, what is the most important thing to think about there?
Well, I think the most important things are the figuring out the light, composing the shot, and focusing.
Okay.
I think those are the best place to start anyway for trying to end up with a product that you can more easily edit.
Yeah.
You can when you're doing composition, you can watch that horizon and those kinds of things. So you're not going to have to straighten it later maybe, but that's all in that composition.
But yeah, I really enjoyed this. And those filters, do you do a lot of stuff with filters? Tell me about how you use filters. You know, sometimes you see things that look so fakey because people have over filtered things, right? Or
yeah, you don't want to over edit. And sometimes people want to, maybe that's the look they do want, you know, they want that kind of graphic, really high end, high color shot, you know, or the black and white shot that's really, really graphic and dark. And so, yeah, you can, it depends on the look you want, but I tend to use filters. You know, yeah, I use them. I do. I use them once in a while. I'll use them for warming a photo up quickly, you know, applying a vivid warmth or something like that. But a lot of, I mean, the steps that I encouraged you to take, the straightening the horizon, cropping, and using your exposure tools to get more light or darker. Those are really the things that, and the back end, that if you do those three, I think, like I said, probably 90% of your photos you'll feel are acceptable.
Well, this is great. Well, this is inspiring me to actually go in and edit and print some photos, because I've got all these photos trapped in my phone that don't see the light of day. And I know that I should be printing some of them. But now that I can apply some of these nice editing features, it's kind of, I think
that's right. And printing is sort of another tricky part of it, is getting the photos out and saving them and printing them. It's, you know, don't be disappointed if once in a while you've over edited, or if there's a little bit too much pixelation. Then you learn from that, and you know, remember, shoot at as high a quality as you can when you take the photos, so that you have more room to edit with, you have more data to waste, more or less.
So, okay, that leads me to another question. Do you save your original photo first and then edit a copy?
Sometimes. I should more often, but I don't always. I always do on my digital camera. I always save the original photo, but in my smartphone, I don't always. I a lot of times just get excited. I mean, it's like, I don't know, shooting with my smartphone is always so much fun. I think I just get have fun. Like, you know, you're getting a picture and I play with it. And so a lot of times I don't save the photo first. Plus in my smartphone, I know I have that revert button that takes me back to the original. But, you don't really want to have to edit it twice, and reverting takes you to the original. So, your best thing is to save the photo and to edit a copy of the photo.
Yeah. I was kind of thinking of that too. So, hey, we have another question too here in our chat. Can you edit those photos on a laptop versus doing it on the phone?
Yeah, I do it all the time. Yeah. I use Photoshop. Some people use Lightroom. Some people use other products. I use Photoshop because I have Photoshop and I've used it for so many years. So yeah, I put my photos from my phone, I load them onto my computer, I open the file, and I edit on my computer in Photoshop. So absolutely, your editing on the smartphone is available to you. Those third-party apps are available to you, but you can also take the photo off and edit it in the software that you might use for editing traditionally.
Okay, very good. And Snapseed too, is that something that's available online, or do you know? I guess I'm just
Snapseed's free, but you have to go to the App Store. It's an application that you have to download. Just type in Snapseed. Snapseed in the search bar of the application store, whether you do the Google store or the and I haven't ever not bought it, but I haven't had an Android phone. So I have an iPhone. I go to the App Store, but I know that the opposite, it works in both operating systems, Android and iOS. So it's available.
Very good. Very good. Well, excellent. Well, any last comments, Anna? This has been just awesome. Again, thank you so much. And anytime you want to stop sharing your screen, you can too, because we're just,
you don't need to look at thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, everybody.
Great. But thank you again to our greeters, Bob and Val Entringer, for helping us out today, and to my colleagues, Janelle Mose, Marnie Peel, and Wendy Hogue, who are behind the scenes, for their assistance and help here today. We really, really appreciate everybody pitching in. But hey, thank you all for joining us today for the Smartphone Photo Editing Program, part of the Passport to Healthy Living program.